Vasudha ma'am, how much time left?
Father, still 5 minutes are left to 2:30.
Okay.
We'll begin sharp at 2:30.
Okay, Grace also I joined. Hello Grace, how are you? Yeah, she is not able to listen. Hello Grace, are you there? Are you able to listen to us?
I think still muted.
Hello Grace, good morning.
Good afternoon, everybody.
I request everybody, please switch on your camera, please.
You can have a good photograph till then. So request everybody to switch on, please.
Smile on face also, ma'am.
Yes, Shalendra, you're right. We need to smile. Today all the women should smile. What do you say, Shalendra?
Sir, good afternoon,
Yeah.
sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Nice to see you. Yes.
Thank you, Father. Priyanka ma'am and all seniors, good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Amita ma'am and all, good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. A lot of join. Welcome and happy Women's Day to all of you all.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. Thank you. Happy
Thank
Women's
you,
Day to all.
ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. We'll begin shortly in 3 minutes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Anchal, is photograph done?
Father, not everybody has switched on their cameras.
See, my classmates have left the meeting the moment just to switch off the camera.
Welcome, Maria. Good afternoon. He has also joined. Father, it's 2:30. Shall we begin?
Yes, please go ahead and all the best.
Okay, thank you so much, Father. So over to you, MCs. All the best.
Yes, Priyanka, begin.
Today is a celebration for women all around the world. Ladies who have dreamed big ever since they were little girls. For the diversity and talent that lie within our mind heart. For the courage and determination that prevents us falling apart. We can raise families and build businesses and be proud of what we all have achieved. Where whatsoever vision of that scale could never have been believed. Ladies, stand up and be counted. Smile at how far we have come and cherish every single day as daughter, wife, companion, or mom. Don't let anybody tell you that you are set paths for you to follow. As a little girl with a passion is an inspiring woman for tomorrow. So celebrate all women and acknowledge the great things they do. And tell a lady close to your heart just how much she means to you. I congratulate all the women out there. A very happy Women's Day.
Indeed, no struggle can succeed without women participating side by side with men. In 1909, we realized saving our planet, lifting people out of poverty, advancing our economic growth, connecting the dots between the climate change, water scarcity, global health, and hence nothing is possible without women working side by side with men. Therefore, the International Women's Day was first celebrated on 28 February 1909 in New York. However, later in the year 1910, International Women's Conference suggested 8 March as an International Women's Day. So each year, people from various countries celebrate 8 March as an International Women's Day with love and honor for the womanhood. So, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to everyone assembled here. I, Ankit Raj, with my co-host Priyanshi Sharma, privileged to host the International Women's Day webinar on the topic Social Innovation and the Entrepreneurship.
The main aim of this joint webinar is to intellectually celebrate Women's Day and to find out ways to share our common interests and learnings, especially on global perspective of social innovation and social entrepreneurship. It is intended that we have these speakers from India, United Kingdom, and Spain to come forward and share their experiences, insights, learnings, case study on the above mentioned topics. Around 15 minutes, it can be an informal way also. This would be promoting cross-learning and enriching experience for the participants from 3 institutions, which aims at building one another for building future generations. The academic and intellectual discussion can bring more refinement and scope in the research work. This will be followed by question and answer sessions.
So it is indeed a great pleasure and honor to be joined by prolific and the illustrious speaker and renowned women leaders on the panel, whom you all will meet in a short while from now. But before that, I would like to invite Dr. Father Dharamkishore Laka SJ, Director ZDAS Jabalpur, to welcome and address the audience. Director Father, the platform is all yours.
Thank you, Ankit and Priyanshi. A happy International Women's Day to all the women all over the world. Good morning and good afternoon. Respected Ms. Amparo Marino, Ms. Grace Aquilo, doctoral program at Camillus Pontifical University, Madrid, Spain, delegates of Strathclyde University, London. You'll have to excuse me if I have
Father, mute the mic. Father, please mute your mic.
What do you mean? Yes.
Hello. Hello. Am I audible?
Father, please mute your mic.
Father, please, you can continue.
Okay, once again I begin. Happy International Women's Day to all the women all over the world. Good morning and good afternoon. Respected Ms. Amparo Marino and Ms. Grace Aculo, doctoral program at Camilla's Pontifical University, Madrid, Spain, delegates of Strathclyde University, London. You'll have to excuse me if I have pronounced your names wrongly. Dignitaries, esteemed participants online, teaching and non-teaching staff, and dear students offline. International Women's Day is all about feeling women realize their worth and giving them a boost to achieve as per their actual potential. On this day, the world unites to appreciate their courage to cross all the hurdles and make such tremendous improvement in almost all the spheres of life. Besides that, it is the most important thing to be emphasized is the work that still needs to be done to fill that gap that has existed for ages. International Women's Day is all about valuing oneself and realizing one's full potential. Aside from that, women need to summon the fortitude to overcome all the obstacles in all areas of life to achieve significant progress. It is a common misconception in society that women's problems are unimportant. Each year, International Women's Day is given a theme which often relates to contemporary events, trends, and struggles. This year, the focus is on breaking the bias. A general myth that exists in society is that issues related to women's empowerment can only be addressed at an infinitesimally slower pace. Many people out there in society believe that the gender gap does not exist, and some are also of the belief that the efforts made by individuals cannot make difference to the gender gap that exists in society. These beliefs have over the years incapacitated the power of women. The first in this endeavor to eradicate this deep-rooted means is realizing that the problem can only be identified and solved by interacting with the people who are irrational taboos of the society. On this day, we must realize that every single person's contribution towards fighting a threat to the society counts. International Women's Day is all about being aware of the fact that each individual has to work in their way for changing the ugly face of the society. The topic of the webinar today is innovation and entrepreneurship. Now, let us listen to these women entrepreneurs on the topic respectively. Once again, a hearty welcome to all of you and all the best to the international and national speakers for today's webinar. God bless you.
Social innovation and entrepreneurship, which is an handy work to throw some lights on the opportunities for women who plan to start their own work and stand on their own feet and can be the bread earner of the home.
So let's start this event by inviting someone who is an inventor in mind, socialite in heart, environmentalist in spirit, and liberal in action. She's a great role model. Dr. Namrata Vasudev just wrote here to begin this event with a golden word. Ma'am, the platform is all yours.
Happy day once again to dignitaries and delegates from Comila, Spain, Scratlight, London, and Leaders, Jabalpur. A very good afternoon to each one of you, and a very warm welcome to this joint webinar on social innovation and entrepreneurship. I'm very pleased and honored today here to share with you the rationale or the mindset with which this joint webinar between these three institutes was planned in the month of December and January. You know, it was this social innovation and entrepreneurship webinar was planned, rather initiated with a mindset to build each other up by sharing of our cross learnings, our experiences, our observations, our research work with one another so that we build each other up. Apart from that, it was also started with a mindset to refine and build a global outlook. We work on our areas of social innovations and entrepreneurship with the team, but when we share and listen to other persons' experiences in the research work, we build a global outlook. And we open up our thinkings and also our ideas very vibrantly and dynamically. We are able to view the same issue from a different perspective. We are also able to refine our approach very strategically. And I'm very, very sure and implement back in our works, whether we are initiating a social entrepreneurship, we are doing an innovation with them, or we are starting an entrepreneurship, or we are building social entrepreneurship up. And I'm sure each one of you will have a lot of takeaways from different parts of the world to take back and implement in our homes. So happy learning and enjoy the learnings. Thank you so much. And over to you, Ankit.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Indeed, very wonderful and profound thought you have expressed.
I believe in being strong when everything is going wrong. I believe that happy girls are the prettiest girls. I believe tomorrow is another day, and I believe in miracles.
Today, we are here to listen to the talk on social innovation and entrepreneurship. And for this, I would like to invite our next speaker from UK delegates of Strathclyde University, Ms. Zakira Zabin and Ms. Caroline Whitefield. Ma'am, the platform is all yours. And welcome to the webinar, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm just checking whether Zakia has joined yet. If she has not, we'll start, and she might join us upon the time that was given in the schedule. So we'll start. Hi Zakia, how are you?
I already have joined. Hi, hello everyone.
Yes, hello, hi, welcome, ma'am.
Okay, so should I share my screen?
So let's start in a little bit different way. I will start first, and then Caroline will come in, and then Zakia. We'll share the next 30 minutes for 10 minutes each, if that is okay. So we'll stick to this schedule. And we're going to talk about the different aspects that we focus on in terms of our work at Strathclyde and collaboration with people like Amparo. So if you don't mind, let me just share this presentation. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, can you see it? Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes,
okay,
yes.
Yes, perfectly. Perfect. All right, so I will start talking a little bit about who we are at Strathclyde and then what we do, and then I will leave the rest of the time to be taken by Caroline and Zakia. So my name is Katerina Olkakien. I'm a professor at the University of Strathclyde, and I'm directing the research group, Global Social Entrepreneurship Innovation. So our group has been focused for the last 2.5 years when it was set up on one specific aspect we consider to be very relevant to this webinar that is taking place today. And this based on the issues we have emerging and and to favor creative collaborations that are responsive to what is happening in society, the wider academic community, business community, and the social aspects of our, endeavors around the university and far across global terrains. The scope that we have in terms of the research we conduct is to encompass socially sensitive ways in which entrepreneurship and innovation develop in different global contexts. We have researchers in the group that it's about 15 researchers, PhD and DPA researchers. They're researching in African, European, Southeast Asian, Indian, Latin American, Caribbean, and Arab regional contexts. So it's a number of countries in this particular context, and we are creating, I would say, a wide understanding of these topics in these different geographies and across. Because, of course, the topics that are interesting for us, they have particular manifestations in the different regions, but they are much more far-reaching and much more, I would say, encompassing of human and social problems or challenges. What we do in the group also, we have a series of thought leadership events, so we organize our own colloquia, seminars, we host visiting speakers from industry or from other universities. We contribute to some taught courses, of course, in the university. We have a learning circle process whereby we organize reading groups, writing retreats, and mentoring for PGRs. And our aim is to create also useful products like toolkits. So there is one I'm going to refer to now in my presentation, which is coming from our research projects. And we're also a member of the Network for Business Sustainability. This is a global network stemming out of Ivy Business School in Canada, and they're very much proponents, bringing together 170 excellent centers and groups focusing on business sustainability. So for those of you that are interested in the research, I have a number of references I can share if we have any PhDs in the audience, and they all come from related pieces of research that have taken place with different PhDs. So we very much focus on qualitative and quantitative methods, but our strength is qualitative. So there's a number of things we can share from reflexive ethnographic methods. We work very much in understanding the deeper aspects of context. There might be metrics, but we need to understand the qualitative elements of how entrepreneurship and innovation develop when we're talking about these different regions, the different geographies. Just for the information of the audience here, still when entrepreneurship is problematized, the majority of the assumptions come from very much Western environments, and I would say even US environments. This is if we take this quantitatively. But in reality, qualitative studies present us with a lot of interest in terms of the different geographies. There is also a lot of focus that we place in bringing together entrepreneurial leadership and gender. And again, a number of references that we are working with. Most recently, I have been awarded with one other colleague a contract to work on a book exclusively on entrepreneurial leadership. So the aspect of women and gender will be also encompassed within this endeavor. And we very much hope that this will highlight something that is still underdeveloped, because the way that we understand entrepreneurial leadership, and if we add the dimension of gender, is still very fresh as a kind of research area. So we are very much working within this double loop of entrepreneurship, leadership, and gender. So there's connections there that we're building in the research group and the work of the different researchers. So just to explain a little bit what we mean by this female entrepreneurial leadership. So vastly, when we are talking about entrepreneurial literature, gender is understood still as a kind of independent variable. So a certain entrepreneurial situation is studied, and then we're looking for the effects of gender on that. However, we're taking the other side of this aspect or of this phenomenon, and we go deeper into what it means to experience the business world, the entrepreneurial world, and building these socially sensitive approaches through discourse analytic, ethnographic methods, and narrative-based understanding. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. So I will continue by showing you a few slides about a number of projects that I've done recently with specifically one of my PhD students in Egypt. And why is important? Because they were exclusively focused on women entrepreneurs. So we looked into urban pure communities of Greater Cairo. And what we found there, particularly this last project that we did about 18 months ago, it was studying what we call transitions of entrepreneurship when we have displacements. So from, let's say, poorer areas of Cairo, there was a large number of women that were displaced and actually relocated in another setup, another community that was built for that purpose. So what we looked at in terms of this phenomenon is the understanding of place-anchored community. So that place, that space was created with this policy that moved the populations. What happened with these female entrepreneurs during that situation was that actually COVID challenges, which was the overall context in which the research was taking place, were hitting them rather badly. So those of them who were experiencing marginalization, which is socioeconomic, so minority women, peripheral women, etc., they became even more vulnerable in the emergencies created by COVID situation, and they needed much more support. However, there is a kind of resilience that we found in terms of our studies, and we found that such women, as a kind of a backlash and as a kind of their own resilient reaction in terms of what they were facing, they were able to form their unique informal entrepreneurial ecosystem in the communities to survive the situation. So we have, I would say, and this is something we need to go deeper in, overlaying ecosystems, the formal entrepreneurial ecosystem, various informal entrepreneurial ecosystems, and an informal innovation ecosystem, which has to do with some aspects where, for example, people in Egypt repurpose a lot. They, use materials in new ways. They find ways, to reuse and innovate from very much limited resources. And this is something that might be common or similar to India. You will tell us more about it. In terms of the methodology, as I said, we do focus on qualitative aspects because we want to understand the context in depth. So it's structured and unstructured interviews. This last project had 15 participants. Overall, we have researched over 60 or 70 participants in our qualitative studies on Egypt in the portfolio. There are a number of materials which are photographic and visual, so there's a lot of evidence there which invites new methodologies. Christine Sami, my PhD researcher, is finishing her PhD studies on similar topic, and what we found is that these women they responded really well to this call to participate in the research, and we also needed to operate with the least burden on others because we shouldn't be intruding the communities. So the main things that came in terms of those projects have to do with understanding the social capital and the intermediaries that are needed in these aspects, severe lack of skills. Sometimes part of the challenge, despite the resilience, was the lack of persistence. So some women needed to be prompted to stay on the course of being entrepreneurs, just because next door perhaps there were better employment opportunities, even if it is something menial, they would do it. The instinct was there, but the general business awareness was not there. The need to reaffirm the identity as entrepreneurs was very prominent, so it was very much about personal identity. A lot of responsibilities with childcare and overall, I would say, enhanced role within the family. And that needs to balance the persistent adversity, which is very much bound on the context and the development of entrepreneurial hustle and agility. So the toolkit we're developing, and I've been doing this work with some researchers since summer, is to develop aspects of resilience, pivoting, the capacity to develop parallel businesses or reuse materials and develop other things, and also ideas about or ways to access finance, which is always challenging with these populations, and train the trainers because trainers or coaches or mentors can help the women stay the course of entrepreneurship. This is something very important because this lack of persistence can have to do with the need to survive. And once the women are hit with the need to survive, they might choose a menial job over staying the course of entrepreneurship. This is all from me in terms of this presentation. Then I would say we go to Caroline and then to Zakia.
Good morning, everybody. I'm not going to share my slides because of the time, and rather I would like to just discuss what we're doing and share a vision with you, if I may. So I am part of a group with Professor Katerina and Dr. Andrea Wilson, and I would also like to pay tribute to one of our colleagues who's recently died, Dr. Bimal Amora, who's very much an inspiration behind some of the work that we do in India. We're most grateful to his contribution and wish to carry it on. But I'd like to just paint a picture for you of something that we've found, which is the rate of female entrepreneurship is, varies around the world. But some of the interesting background to our work is that if the rate of female entrepreneurship was, for example, in India, the same as that of male entrepreneurship, the overall GDP of India would be approximately 25% greater. So not only is this important for parity of opportunity for women, it's a fundamentally important part about future economic growth for the state of India, and indeed other areas of the world where there's significant disparities in that participation rate. So we don't start from this from a small, narrow perspective, but from wishing to make a fundamental contribution to economies. The second thing is that the findings suggest, and again, we can send references on all this, that the type of ventures and entrepreneurs that women lead, either as family businesses, which is a very important part of the economy, or indeed as new start businesses, have characteristics around sustainability that are particularly good. And I would like to just reference a couple of bits of research that we've done to do this. So between the people I've mentioned, we have done a first pilot study around 6 nations around the world, including entrepreneurs, women in India. And we have found that they generate ventures with a view to wider social and family sustainability right from the beginning. That's not to give any disrespect to excellent ventures formed by men or in collaborative forms, because they all make their own contributions. But there appears to be something different about the motivation and output of female entrepreneurs, which is more focused on what we call, and we hypothesize, a distributive gains model. So a distribution of the economic well-being and impact, which right from the beginning goes forward. And I would like to pick up on the esteemed colleague here who mentioned earlier about how women share from each other and learn from each other. That is also something that we have found quite profoundly. But there's a problem that we've identified in our research, which has generated the next stage of research questions, which is informing our research, which is really what we would like to share today, which is notwithstanding tremendous efforts by governments and policymakers to lift the rate of female entrepreneurship. This is a well-known policy challenge and desire. The numbers aren't moving much. That's the truth of it. The numbers aren't moving much. They're still at a pretty low level. And that is not just within an Indian context, it's in many different nations. The highest levels would be in somewhere like Scandinavia, but even there is a gap. So our initial pilot research, as we've said, around the different nations has indicated the real barrier are our institutional factors and social constraints. And there's a gap in the literature, particularly as regards the Global South, about how women navigate those institutional issues and social context. And our starting point is not to challenge them. It's not to say these are wrong. They're saying, how can women work within, work in partnership and navigate them so that more can come forth as ventures in their different contexts. Many of the ventures we've observed do indeed also have this element of social innovation. They're less purely return on capital based and much more return on society based, as we've said. So to pursue this deeper understanding, we are doing a number of things as sort of a broad brush program of activity as a subset of what Dr. Katerina Nicolapoulou has outlined. And I'm specifically looking at this area around lifting the rate of female entrepreneurship in these particular contexts. So the things that we're doing included, we're looking at older research transcripts, which we've all done collectively, and reinterrogating them to really ensure that these insights are correct. That's going to be look forward to be published sometime mid-year. We're also doing something a bit unconventional, is we're looking at theoretical findings in parallel fields to our own. And specifically, that's in the field of female employment levels. Because all around the world, there's good information on the rates of female employment in different social contexts, and some good theorization about, again, the institutional and social limits and opportunities around that. So we're doing a podcast, in fact, which we'll happily share with everybody, to start to open the debate on this and look at how we take some of the findings in that field and apply them in entrepreneurship to refine our research question. So to take and challenge unusual opportunities, we need unusual methods. We're also doing some depth case studies within India, specifically on sustainable female entrepreneurs, to really understand how they have navigated this, how they have emerged, and how they particularly have engaged wider members of the community as part of early stage development. So I think the message today would be the gains from this form of academic research could be wonderful. Wonderful for the women involved, wonderful for their communities, but wonderful for the wider goals that all nations now share about how sustainable economic growth that works within planetary boundaries, including women, but also done in a way that's positive for us all. So I would be delighted for anyone who wanted to understand any of our research better. If you'd like to participate in any of our wider socialization and communication mechanisms to get the debate going, if that's with yourselves, with your students, with other people. And as I said, we'll have a rolling program of communication through journal publication as well, to really see if we can nail this point about how we, with sensitivity and understanding, allow these women to emerge. So bottom line, female entrepreneurship needs to be done in a sympathetic and understanding way within the wider lives that they live. And that's what we're hoping to achieve. So perhaps we can discuss this later, but thank you for your time and thank you so much for the opportunity to speak and share our research with you. Slides can follow, I'm sure.
Zaki, you can go ahead.
My screen is visible. My screen is visible or not?
Yes, it is.
It's not fully on screen share.
Okay.
We cannot see your presentation.
Is it visible now?
Yes, it is visible. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So thank you everyone for giving me this opportunity. I am Zakia Jabin and I'm a first year PGR student in the University of the Strathclyde under Professor Katrina. So today I'm going to discuss something about the determinants of early stage entrepreneurial activity among females in India. So the presentation outline is like this. And the about the introduction, as we all know, the contribution of entrepreneurship has been importantly recognized across the globe in terms of job creation and in the recovery and societal progress. So, among 1,922 females surveyed, only 140 females have reported involvement in the early stage entrepreneurial activity. That is 7.3%. So the paper aims at identifying the determinants of early stage entrepreneurial activity among the females. And it is based on the adult population survey of GEM database. And the next slide. This is the conceptual framework and the research hypothesis. So the hypotheses are like this. The hypothesis first is like the favorable entrepreneurial attitude is positively related to the early stage entrepreneurial activity among the females. And the hypothesis two is like an entrepreneurially favorable subjective norms is positively related to the early stage entrepreneurial activity among the females. And as the higher the perceived behavior control with respect to entrepreneurship is also having the positive implication for the early stage entrepreneurial activity among the females. And these are the descriptions of variables, but due to the lack of time, these are also the results of logistic regression model, but due to lack of time, I'll just go to the next slide to the conclusion and the implication. So when we analyze the data, so the results showed that there is a positive and significant effect of attitude towards the entrepreneurship, the subjective norms, and the perceived behavior control to the early stage entrepreneurial activity among the females of India. So the current focus of the government in the country for promoting the new ventures there are so many schemes in India. It has been started. This research can be valuable for the various stakeholders in adopting a gender-based approach in implementing the entrepreneurial initiatives. My research topic will be the development of dynamic capabilities among women entrepreneurs in adapting the zero waste agenda. The objective of the research will be understanding the changing entrepreneurial ecosystem for the social enterprise and mapping the development of strategic capabilities for promoting the social enterprises and towards the promoting the sustainable social enterprise models for strengthening adapting the zero waste agenda. And this will be the conceptual research framework, like the strategic planning, dynamic capabilities, resources, and the entrepreneurial ecosystem, entrepreneurial skills, and women entrepreneurship. So I'm just at the starting stage of my PhD. So I'm just doing the literature review. So these will be the conceptual research framework. Thank you so much.
And just to mention, Zakia, that one particular population you're interested in is the women entrepreneurs in zero waste sector. So zero waste incorporates, of course, environmental aspects, but also community and social aspects. So this is a subset that needs further investigation as per different contexts, not only India. I think this is all from us. Any questions?
The house is open for questions. You can unmute and ask the question, or either you can type the question in the chat box also.
Zakia, when you did your study, I am Priyanka. So you did your study in India where you identified some 1900 women entrepreneurs. So in which geographical area your sample was situated, and how did you identify the women?
I did my MBA from the Aligarh Muslim University, and after that I did a training in the managing based in Hyderabad. So I did the RTBB Raftar project, it's a government project, and I identified that southern area of the India, the southern part of India, this Hyderabad, Bangalore, and so I'm thinking to collect the data from these area only, Hyderabad, Bangalore, and the southern regions.
This is Dr. Uma Saha. I want to ask a question to Zakia, and I want to actually congratulate three presenters. It was a wonderful presentation. and it is a wonderful start of this webinar. So, Zakia, I wanted to ask is that you have discussed about two sets of research. So in the initial research, you have done a lot of logistic regression, whatever, and you have come to a conclusion also. But what is your recommendation? How, just talking about the conclusion, that attitudinal change. So in that south part of Hyderabad, how could you change? What are the main, area of focus in order to bring in? Only 7.3% of the women are in entrepreneurship. So we need a very strong recommendation. So how to bring the other women into this fold? Ma'am.
Thank you for your question, ma'am. This I have taken the data from the GEM database and I analyzed according to the GEM database. So this is just a paper. My topic of research will be on the zero waste sector. Like my research will be on the development of dynamic capabilities among women entrepreneurs in adapting the zero waste. So this is just the data taken from the GEM database. So I'll work on this.
Okay, presently, yeah, it's okay.
You can refer to the latest GEM also, Zakia. It is 2019. The report is already out, so you can refer to
I
the
think the
latest.
DEM database used to give the 3 years back. So I've taken the data from the 2017.
Okay.
May I comment? I think the answer is we don't know yet, but the qualitative research alongside this is what's going to illuminate both the constraints and the things that will unlock it. And I'm sorry to say, but I think it is the truth. It will be subtle and complex, and there are multiple paradoxes at work. And trying to unpick that is important because I think previous policy has been quite simplistic in most countries and assumes that basically taking a male motivation model would equally work with women, and that is proven now over time, not least by the figures that Zaki has indicated, to not work. So that is, in a way, your answer is that's exactly what we're trying to find out. So we can give specific recommendations in policy and with clarity, both for women as well as from a policy side.
Okay, thank you, Karen.
Any other questions are welcome here. No questions? Okay, thank you everyone for your informative words.
The girls who were unanimously considered beautiful often rested on their beauty alone. I felt I had to do things, to be intelligent and develop personality in order to be seen as attractive. By the time I realized maybe I wasn't plain and might even possibly be pretty, I had developed myself into more confident and intellectually strong and little more interesting and formed.
Now moving forward, I would like to invite our next speaker of the day, Miss Amparo Marino and Miss Gresa Aculo, doctoral program at Commonwealth Pontifical University. Welcome ma'am, and the platform is all yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all the speakers and organizers. It is an honor and a pleasure to be here and to have this wonderful opportunity to know each other's institutions better and to share our worries and research interests in social innovation and social entrepreneurship from gender or other perspectives. I'm going to share my screen. Can you see my screen? I think now you can. Yeah. So let me introduce to you our university very briefly. This is the building where we are located at one of the campuses of the university, where we develop our doctoral program on. It's in the very center of Madrid. where we develop our doctoral program on business and regional competitiveness, innovation, and sustainability. That's the name. And this is the doctoral program at the Faculty of Business and Economics. This is the framework for our presentation today because very diverse topics and research interests are developed related to social innovation across the whole university. But in the Faculty of Business and Economics, we have a quite humble and small program, much smaller than Strathclyde's. But despite that, there is a quite interesting and a lot of interest on social innovation and social entrepreneurship issues. And this is my goal for today, just to present you very briefly most of the research that is redeveloped within this context. This doctoral program is a joint program developed together with two other Jesuitic universities in Spain, Deusto and Ramon Llull University. Our underlying interest is on sustainability issues, and innovation is a critical factor there in all of the research. But we approach this interest from a wide, diverse a variety of perspectives, scopes, methodologies, either quantitative and qualitative studies, theoretical approaches, and disciplines. So, for example, it involves research on sustainability in management and leadership context, consumption, education for sustainability, sustainable finance, and of course, social entrepreneurship. That is what brings us here today. Our research focuses on individuals from psychological perspectives, for example, and on organizations, territories, or cultures, more macro perspective studies. We developed this program in partnership with different universities, for example, Strathclyde, that is here today with us. And in cooperation, we intend to bring interdisciplinarity in all our research. So we cooperate from different perspectives with scholars from engineering and humanistic studies. And let me introduce you, as we are a small institution, as I mentioned, I will just focus my presentation on people and what they are doing. First, Braulio Pareja, he's not a doctoral student, he's a doctor also, but I wanted to bring his research topics here because it's quite relevant in relation to the role of cooperative enterprises in the role they're playing in impoverished communities of smallholder farmers in terms of resilience, food sovereignty, of well-being. So he tries to understand the logics, underlying social change in these relationships, and that is in conflict with dominant dynamics in trade and in the economic systems. Maria Jose Manjón is a researcher focused on the issues of energy poverty, and he studies within the framework of Europe. He studies the role that social entrepreneurs in poverty, in energy poverty, may play within the network of energy poverty. So she approaches the topic from an interpretative lens and try to understand how social entrepreneurs feel, live, and experience their role within the energy poverty network. Mónica Vázquez del Solar adopts an institutional lens to understand the conflicting logics conflicting business logics that coexist in the framework of sustainability transitions, and how the dominant business logics oriented to profit is transforming in some way within this framework of sustainability transitions, and how social enterprises that embodies a different type of logic focused on social issues and social transformations, how the complexity behind develops in the interactions among different business actors. Miguel Garcia, he has just started his research journey, and he's researching on the problem that the disconnection between the urban and the rural areas has tremendous impacts in terms of climate, well-being, and the larger topic of food system. So his focus is on urban agriculture initiatives, mostly with the shape of communities, and how this grassroots innovation or other type of innovation in urban agriculture, how these innovations is playing a role in the transformation of food system. He also frames the issue in the sustainability transition framework. He will try to understand deeply to map out the wide diversity of initiatives that are trying to move things in some way, to understand their motivation, drivers, barriers, and how they face their barriers and develop to transform the current food system. Nuria Fernandez is focused on the role played by leadership. She's focused on leadership and the role played by top managers of small and medium enterprises in implementing and developing eco-innovation in the business arena. As you can see, gender and women is not a particularly relevant focus on our research, but we have here with us Grace Aculo, who's going to present her research on precisely the role of women's entrepreneurship education in narrowing these gender gaps in developing countries. He's particularly focused on Uganda, and she's now there. So I'm happy to pass the word to Grace, that she will share with us the particularities of her research, and she presents a case with a woman entrepreneur that is with her. So Grace, I pass you the floor.
Thank you so much, Amparo. I'm so honored to be on this platform. Happy Women's Day to all the women on this platform, and to the gentlemen as well. I will continue with the presentation. Thank you so much for that very good introduction, Amparo. And I'm so proud of what you do in regards with social entrepreneurship and innovation. So mine is mainly on the role of entrepreneurship education, because we know that we gain the skills and the knowledge on how these constraints that women encounter in their daily operations and also in the initiation of their businesses. So right now I'm in Uganda, and the research that I'm working on is phenomenology. It takes a phenomenology approach, and this is to find out the actual things, the way they are found in the field. And the phenomenon is the female figures that provide informal entrepreneurship education to practicing women entrepreneurs. But the woman entrepreneur that you're seeing besides me here is called Abby, and she's one of the women entrepreneurs whom I'm doing this research, and she's one of the participants who accepted to be with us today, and she'll briefly tell us about what she does later on when I'm done with this very introduction. So there are so many studies that have been done on entrepreneurship education and women entrepreneurship. And some of them say that women entrepreneurship pedagogy is gender, given that the definition of entrepreneurship itself is Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Entrepreneurship education. When you see EET, when you see entrepreneurship education and training. So the studies that have been done tell us that women entrepreneurship education and pedagogy is gendered because the definition of entrepreneurship itself is gendered. And for some of us that do not know the definition, is the most common known is the pursuit, the identification and the pursuit of opportunities. And this definition has masculine definitions or words that describe it, like opportunity seeker, person that risk taker, goes beyond what they actually have, and in most cases this actually have, and in most cases this represents the men. That is why in most cases is regarded and has been found to be gendered. Another side of entrepreneurship education is that the dark side of entrepreneurship education has led to the abandonment of the pursuit of entrepreneurial careers, and this has mainly happened with the STEM students. Mainly happened with the STEM students. These are students that are doing science, economics, and technology, economics. Why do they abandon entrepreneurship? And why do they abandon? Because they abandon because what they're actually going to go through. What they're actually going to go through. They see that they're going to pursue these opportunities. They are going to be risk takers to give them if they went to be employed other than they pursue their own entrepreneurial careers. Other side, so in most cases, this makes them abandon entrepreneurship education, what they are supposed to actually be taking on. What they are supposed to actually be taking on. And then another study tells us that the informal entrepreneurship education has been left to the entrepreneurship education has been left to government organizations, or partners work with the governments to see that the people that cannot afford to take on the traditional entrepreneurship education in secondary school or at university level get this kind of education. So this informal entrepreneurship education has been left to policymakers, and these policymakers research they have their own selfish interests, and one of them has been found to be economic growth. So as these policymakers are pushing the women to be more entrepreneurial, they are pursuing goals like more women, we want half the population is men and the other half is female. So we want more women on board so that we can have a higher percentage of entrepreneurial activity in this region. So they do not care about what the women are going through in the society. All they want is the interest of economic growth. And then other studies have shown us that when these policymakers are giving the female entrepreneurs role models, sometimes they choose the role models that do not identify with the challenges that the female entrepreneurs are going through. So the female entrepreneurs end up abandoning those role models, and they begin to choose the lookout. Others tell us that when we look at entrepreneurship education and women entrepreneurs, in most cases, they are comparing the outcomes of the women entrepreneurs to their male counterparts. And we know how dangerous that is, because women and males, we all may be human beings, but we all have our own strengths in other areas. So how kinds of comparisons badly damage the representation of what women have done, and how far they have come to be who they are, and what contribution they are making to society. And other studies tell us that the approaches that have been used on teaching entrepreneurship have focused on pedagogy. That is university and school, other than the instructional, that the practicing women entrepreneurs need in the society. So these are women that can easily approach the mentorship or mentorship. So they are left alone and they need someone who instructs them. So the gap that we have identified is the conceptualization of these female figures, how they match to provide informal entrepreneurship education to the practicing women entrepreneurs. And the lady that I have beside me is going to explain how she does that because she's one of the participants. So the aim is to use the scientific lens of entrepreneurship that is taught to everyone at all levels. So I'll briefly mention what this means. So there have been other lenses that have been used to study entrepreneurship education. There's been the trade. So in the trade, we have seen that entered by what they do, they do this, but then we now move to the process lens that tells us what actions they actually undertake in order to grow their businesses or to initiate their businesses. But that was not sufficient enough because it did not include the cognitive, and that is where we get the perceptions, the attitudes. So even when we included the perceptions and attitudes and all these kinds of things when we're studying entrepreneurship and how it is taught to practicing entrepreneurs, still there needed to be a method that tells us that entrepreneurship can be taught to everybody at all kinds of levels. And the kind of lens that I'm using is study. And the research question is how do female entrepreneurship educators experience the appropriativeness of scientific teaching methods in the poverty settings. And the poverty setting is a setting that lacks in entrepreneurial ecosystems, and most like those that are regulated probably by their policy makers. And the poverty setting is one that lacks the formal kind of education. And we are going to build on a model that is already in existence, that was done by Fayol and Daley in 2008. Next slide, please, Sapara. So this is not really useful unless it has been unless its effect is felt in society of studying women entrepreneurship and what it does in the society can be felt in the things that it is contributing to poverty reduction. That is the first SDG, as we see the SDGs. The second one is in education. The second one is in education because we are now developing the knowledge, not just the practical knowledge, but also the cognitive skills. But also then we also are working on gender equality because we have seen that once we get to know the constraints that we have in our entrepreneurial careers and how to work on them. And then also the relevance that we see here that work, like Abby is going to show us how she's contributing and then also on economic growth. So these are both theoretical and practical insights on how to improve women entrepreneurship education. So I think I'll end there, and then Abby is going to take about a few minutes to tell us who she is and what she does to community as a female entrepreneur who is doing a lot in informal entrepreneurship education.
Hello, and you're most welcome. My name is Abby Nakumakuya. I'm in Uganda. By training, I'm a teacher. I'm a tutor, teacher trainer. Now I'm doing. I studied entrepreneurship, and now I'm training within the community. What I deal with is helping the community members. Being a woman, being trained in entrepreneurship, I'm also training other community members, the youth, the women, even the men. What we are looking at focusing on home farming. We are looking at resources everyone has. Because when we elevate levels, people will be left out. But we are trying to solve every home problem. How can we utilize the resources we have here in Bunga. Here in Bunga, I will show you as we go with Grace. I'll show you the projects that I made in a very small space. There's rabbit farming. There's poultry. I have turkeys. I have chicken, and I plant matoke. Matoke is the staple food for Uganda within the compound. As I look at this as an improving entrepreneur skill, because it's all about self-sustaining. The resources we look at the resources we then have. At home here in Africa we have the best people at home create and time to do some work. Then the environment, tropical weather, things can grow, we can harvest rain. So how do we use all that to benefit sustainability at home? So besides the formal employment for men and women, we want to encourage projects that can be done at home, that can the family and help here. As they multiply very that their waste is really good. We can do the best side. You see the matoke is well grown, it's good manure, and also we can use biogas. So when we look at the entrepreneurial point of it, is something which can solve problems. We are looking at environment. Yes, we have access to organic manure. Yes, the rabbits can be managed, and there is food for the family members. So my goal for under precious souls ministry is to empower. There is what we lack. We lack time. Is very good. For my education is very good, but I want to create an environment people can come at home and people can come at home within days and they go and implement within days. So they become employed. But most of all, they become sustainable. But most of all, they become sustainable. People have time at home. People have time at home. Every member. Projects we do at home can be done by children. Can be done by the men. Can be done by the women. But most of all, food security is security for women. In Uganda, there has been COVID, and there have been lockdown. Many girls have gotten pregnant because they are trying to survive. As they go out there, they get pregnant. But when you give these skills, you empower them with these skills, different academic levels, it means that a woman is secure with her family at home, and they can survive. So the skills can be learned, can be anytime someone walks in, can learn something. If they forget, they can still come back. They are here. They have a testimony. They have a testimony. So they are from the slum area. So because this kind of in a small space and it bring in income business. So because it's affordable. So because it's affordable and it's can be done within their area. They feel secure is easily sustainable. So with you, I'm glad to share with you. I'll take you around with Grace, the appropriate space, and for self-people. Okay.
So thank you very much for sharing your interesting work and experience. At least myself couldn't hear very well the last part of your presentation because of problems with the network, I think. But yeah, I think we could have the perfect grasp of the experience. Thank you very much. We are delighted to share with any of you deeper our current research projects. But if you have any questions now, we're open to them.
The house is open for questions. No questions? So we can move ahead. Well, thank you everyone for your sharing of views.
When there is a woman, there is a magic. And to showcase this magic, I would like to invite our next speaker, Miss Priyanka Daley.
Ms. Priyanka Daley is a social development professional with 17 years of experience of multifunctional in the development sector on women's empowerment, gender, and poverty alleviation. She is currently the General Manager North India for Hand in Hand India, where she oversees program on women's empowerment, financial inclusion, and skill development. She has also worked extensively on building and implementing organizational strengthening and knowledge management system, particularly for small NGOs and community-based organizations. She has presented her work at national and international forums and has authored several publications, including papers, training modules, and articles on issues related to women entrepreneurship. She is an alumni of Zida's Jabalpur, and ma'am, we are proud of you.
Thank you so much. And it's so good to be back, and especially on such an amazing day, which makes it all the more special. So, wishing everyone again a very happy Women's Day. Maybe all at personal level and professional level find the courage to make our choices and move ahead. So, I'll be presenting my um, slides. Let me know if you can see this, because I can't see anyone. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So I'm a practitioner, and the theoretical concepts which I'll be explaining or discussing in this presentation, I'll be as quick as possible, being the last speaker. These concepts are coming from the field, which are basically practice based. But as we say that there's nothing in practice which can't be explained through a theory. So everything, the academic part is taken care of. The structure of the presentation is we'll be discussing a little bit about these terms: social innovation, social enterprise, social entrepreneurship, and what really differentiates between a social enterprise and a business enterprise. I'll be talking a little bit about my own organization with which I'm associated with for the past 6 years, Hand in Hand India, which primarily works on women entrepreneurship and job creation. From this case, I would say we can call out the key components of social entrepreneurship and also the strategic challenges which comes in context of social entrepreneurship. So when we talk about social innovation, we see, and particularly in the social sector, because we are talking, idea can be anywhere, but then when we talk about it in the social sector, the idea is something which creates change, which tackles the problems which can't be handled with a normal solution, framework, where you create value, you create an idea, and in that social innovation, it is not always necessary that you are coming up with something drastically a different technology or a completely a different take on something or a new product or a new solution. If you have heard about blue ocean strategy, and I think most of you must have heard, students particularly. So the bits and parts of the technology was always present, and somebody took the opportunity, somebody saw this opportunity, and they basically used that opportunity, used those technology to solve a complex problem. And then when we talk about non-profit sector, non-profit organization, this innovation can be in the form of product base, where you are creating more inclusive services in terms of, like, you include different target groups. Maybe you're tackling a new age group, or you're including new caste-based groups or new geographical location. You can even adopt a model which is already existing. Existing model is there, and you develop a new method of implementation. It can be a process-based innovation, where you adopt different ways of engaging with the stakeholders. You develop different processes, systems, and practices. And it can be a socially transformative innovation, where you, for example, raising awareness on different laws or acts. Maybe you get involved into a public policy engagement, which at a later stage happens, makes a policy change. You develop different networking platforms, or you develop new ways of networking with the working with the different stakeholders. Or maybe you come up with a research, like Zakia just now talked about. So you come up with some kind of research where you give policy recommendation, you recommend for a better idea or better solution. When we talk about social enterprise, basically we're talking about a business model where you are implementing a typical common commercial strategies to maximize your improvements in human and environmental well-being. It basically operates like a business, but where the surplus is basically you are investing into the social and environmental goals. To give an example, it can be a microcredit company. But when we talk about social entrepreneurship, we are talking about a mindset where it is not a business enterprise, it is not about social enterprise, it is not just innovation. It is talking about where you wanted to create a value, and that value is beyond the economic value. You're talking about a social value. You're talking about a solution which cannot be handled normally when you can start a business. Say, for example, you're talking about unemployment. So that can be handled with any business organization. But when you talk about a social entrepreneurship, which is talking about an job creation or an entrepreneurship, job creation through entrepreneurship, you're talking about something where you create a social capital. So in short, when we talk about, and this is very important when we look at this entire social entrepreneurship scenario. So social innovation is basically about creating ideas for change. Social enterprise is about the business model, and it can be profit and it can be non-profit. And social entrepreneurship is all about the mindset, the way in which you look at your business. There are 5 asset tests, and which has been mentioned by Professor Somnath Ghosh, and he's also one of my professor with whom I'm doing my studies. So this framework can be, you can apply this framework in any business organization or any enterprise, where you can see that you apply this. And we are talking about a microcredit company here, and we see that whether it is a social enterprise or it turns out to be a business enterprise. So the questions of profit orientation or maximization, it is something which is like the first asset test, which has to be cleared out by the social enterprise. So where the profit is of paramount importance, even for the investors or for the owners or for the shareholders, then you are not operating a social enterprise. Where the profit is you are, of course you will earn profit, but then your social value, the value which you create, is of more importance than your economic capital. That is when you are operating a social enterprise. Second is about addressing human and environmental well-being, where your enterprise is basically somewhere you are trying to improve at least one of the SDI. So where you are just not giving, so here I'm talking about a microcredit company. So you are not just now disbursing the loans, you're also trying to improve maybe education, maybe health, maybe the quality of life of the women or the your clients. So that is the second test. Training, engagement, and employment of people excluded from the mainstream, where you create capacities, you build the local capacities where people can come out of their, and you create that social safety net among the people who were already, marginalized. So that kind of impact which you create among the communities by providing loans, but also building the capacities of the local resources. The social dimension. So where is the social dimension comes in a microcredit company, where you create that community change. You are not just forming the JLG groups or just forming the groups for loan disbursement, but also trying to organize the community members, build in their capacities, look at their needs, and also provide inputs on, say for example, farm technology, or for health, or for education, or for housing. And then the element of innovation and entrepreneurship, because we operate in a complex environment where everything is uncertain. So it requires a continuous use of entrepreneurial methods, and which requires a lot of innovation, where you can tackle these problems, where you can solve these problems and accomplish those social goals. I'd like to discuss here about the organization Hand in Hand India, and then we can see that these kind of elements of social entrepreneurship, whether it passed that test, and also how it fits into the framework of social enterprise. So you see a lot of things depends on the leader, or the one who initiates such organizations. And when we say that, so visionary leaders, I'd like to quote this quote by Dr. Cantor from Harvard Business School, that visionary leaders see further when they can see through many eyes. And courage innovation begin with execution and name the strategy later. And this is very unlikely because people talk about the strategy first. So what do you want to do? How do you want to do? So that kind of thing which is very different when we talk about social entrepreneurship, because something where you start with an idea, you start working on that idea, and you make it happen, and then you can call it give the name of any strategy. So here I'm talking about Hand in Hand. It's an organization which is working across 8 countries and 3 continents. And the primary focus of the work is on the core, at the heart of this organization is children. But when you see that the organization primarily works with women and working with women on an integrated model. And how it became, because it's very important that you know the history of the organization. And that is somewhere lies the DNA of the organization. So Kanchipuram, if you are aware, that is the silk city of India, and where a lot of silk weaving community members are, the entire family is involved into silk weaving, and especially the children who are working as bonded laborers. And Hand in Hand was running an evening schools for these children. And when we notice that, even if you work with the children on education, they'll go back to these silk weaving factories, because the poverty is such that their families cannot afford their education, and health is something which is interlinked with the education of the children. And eventually you see that if you cannot take out the families from the poverty, the vicious cycle of poverty, it becomes really difficult for the children to continue their education. And with this premise, and with this idea at the base, Hand in Hand visualize its vision, mission, and goal, where elevation of poverty is basically focused on access to education and affordable healthcare, skill development, entrepreneurship, financial inclusion, and clean environment. And this is something the core where or maybe the heart of the organization where whatever the interventions the organization does or is doing right now, it is somewhere you are providing the dignity, hope, and choice for sustainable development. This is the integrated model where the 5-pillar model has been, implemented by the organization, where women empowerment, because if you don't work with the mothers, you cannot, when you cannot, ensure a sustainable regular income for the family, you cannot, the children cannot continue their education. Skill development is something which is related to enterprise creation, because a lot of enterprises are skill dependent. So skilling program is something which is part of enterprise development. Health is something which is important for mothers and children and for the entire family, and of course the environment in which they live is required that for a sustainable development has to work on the environment. I'll focus here more on the entrepreneurship and job creation model of hand-in-hand, where we are trying to create 10 million jobs for women by providing integrated services, skilling, financial inclusion, job credit support, and for credit support kind of an activity. And what has happened is that with this model of working, we've been able to work with more than now 27 lakh women, and able to because the focus is on family-based enterprise. So the entire family is working, and each woman, the beauty of working with and the strength of working with women is that you create a job or an enterprise for a woman, she'll generate jobs for others. And that is why the jobs created are double than the women who are already working with us. So on average, we have seen that 1.5 a woman creates 1.5 jobs. Each woman has the ability to create more than that. And this is the integrated model. I'll not get into all the steps, but yeah, it will show you that it is something where you are based in the community, you know what the community demands or needs. You are building your capacities on all the aspects, and something which is wherein the data gets feed, like COVID started, and so COVID, taught us that there are other ways of conducting business and training programs. So digital is something which is now the core focus of most of our programs. When we work with women, we found that literacy is the biggest issue. So we started functional literacy courses. We found that an entrepreneur cannot survive without financial literacy. So financial literacy came in. So these are very need-based programs. And access to credit has always remained the biggest constraint for women, where without access to credit facilities, she cannot start, or at least even if she's doing anything, she cannot strengthen or expand her business to the level where she can move beyond those living wages, entrepreneurship. And to promote, to sustain this kind of model, women-led federations and at the block level and at the cluster levels have been, formed. So I'll just stop sharing here, and I'll show you 1 minute, 1.5 minute in that film. Let me know if it is. Yeah.
In India, about 1/3 live in dire poverty, struggling at the bottom of the pyramid, shrouded in ignorance and negligence. Significant among them is access to financial services. Ever since the modern avant-garde of microfinance took shape in the 1970s, it has undergone an evolution, molded and customized to serve the different challenges of the poor. Primarily, it has helped to create enterprises, increase the income, smooth consumption, expenditure, build assets, and above all else, reduce vulnerability of the poor.
Hand-in-hand started the microfinance program, focusing on the mothers of child laborers in Conceptual. Ours is a savings-led microcredit program. The unique feature of Hand-in-hand's microfinance program is that we focus on the BOC segment, and we managed to create sustainable livelihoods by focusing on business training and skills training.
For over a decade now, hand in hand, India has been empowering women with sustainable income generation options and also maximizing its efforts at bringing better income, better education, better awareness, better health, better environment to rural communities. With every livelihood that Hand in Hand India has helped create, it has given the underserved population the promise and hope of a better life and a better future.
So, when we look at this entire program by, the model by Hand in Hand, you see that there are elements of social entrepreneurship which I talked about, and this is a model of self-reliance where you when we use these management concepts where when we talk about the POTUS model about competitive advantage, when we see that there is a lot of threats and a lot of potential influence which has been able to tackle if we have a model of self-reliance where there's less donor dependency and where you create a corpus where you can work on the issues which are closer to your heart. So Hand in Hand has a subsidiary organization, group organization, which are 11 group organizations, and they are reinforcing each other's activity with a total staff strength of more than 6,800 employees. And why I'm talking about these awards and all that, because somewhere their work got recognized, and this is one of the key element of social enterprise, that you start something but then you also help in creating an ecosystem where your work is not only recognized by the others but also the others join your mission. And this is what has happened with Hand in Hand, that you see that the core elements of social entrepreneurship, where you see that the entire intention of value creation, the birth of the idea where you wanted to work with the children, and when you see that they cannot continue education, you have to do something with their families. And mothers being the closest to the mothers, and when we also say that you give money to the mother and then she will invest in the well-being of the children or the family. So there started the journey of Hand in Hand when it started mobilizing women and organizing them into self-help groups, and then see that credit is a problem, then you start working on the credit problems, and then you start with market linkages, you train them on the skill development. So all these started, there's a lot of activity, there's explosion of activities which starts at the birth of the idea, but this is the gene which doesn't get changed even if the organization grows, which changes its structure or changes its processes, or the systems gets changed over a period of time. So even that process itself is it helped in creating a social impact, not only at the organizational level, but also at the operational level, the way you operate your organization. And a lot of experimentation has done before actually formal, even the registration of the organization, where deeper insights were built at what needs to be done and what's not. So that is something which is the part of the strategy. Embeddedness, which I feel that it is one of the core element of social entrepreneurship. If you're not closer to the communities, if you're not closer to the stakeholders, you won't be able to work on the needs and the opportunity structures, and which I think the other speaker spoke about, that the women were able to negotiate with the structures, with the with the resources from their vantage point of view, and that helps in creating that value proposition only when you are embedded in the local level. This is something I was saying, that you are not only doing something for your own, but also something where you create a change in the ecosystem, you change the rules of the game, and then you add people, you add other actors in the existing system, and that is how it becomes a mission. And the value which we are talking about, the value creation through social entrepreneurship, it can only happen when others join your mission, and where the profit are of course important, but your goals are not profit. You earn your profit to sustain the organization, to sustain and to support your mission. So something which is very important. And your major thrust is on gaining knowledge, skills, and competence. As you grow, you know how to manage, manage your skills, how to collaborate, how to gain that kind of competence. So when Hand in Hand started working on women entrepreneurship, they realized that health is something which we cannot handle, or we don't have the competence. So a different set of skills are required to work on health. So a different pillar started working on that. We see that access to credit is something which we cannot handle. So Bellstar Microfinance, there's another company which is handling the microfinance for the women, and which is something which is coming from the parent organization. So you'll see that the microcredit company is pro women, where you have engendered all your financial products. And then comes the most important element, which is the art of leadership. So entrepreneur precedes entrepreneurship, and we see that it is not something which is someone who doesn't want to take risk, who is not a hands-on person, who was good at persuasiveness, and who's the art of negotiation, because you deal with a lot of stakeholders. You deal with the government, you deal with the funders, you deal with the local communities, you deal with the political parties, you deal with someone, and also you are looked upon. So you are someone's role model who can inspire others. So these are the 8 elements which I feel that which we have seen from our intervention, and which is perfect fit for any this framework can be fit into any of the social entrepreneur you can relate to. But it comes with the strategic challenges where sticking to your DNA, it becomes really difficult. As in, when you grow into a structure, you grow as like an organization where you spread out. You see that whether your ideology is strong enough to carry on your operations for a longer duration of time. And there comes your mission, which acts as a guiding star for you, which will you always go back to your mission, and you see whether you are actually working on the mission where you started. So you don't change your DNA. Then aligning the value system, it requires a very strong value system when you work on a social, working in a social enterprise. So and it requires an integrated strategy where you keep on aligning your mission, the elements of the strategy, your resources, and also your external environment. With the change in the external environment, with the risk associated and with the complexities or uncertainties in which we work, sometimes you have to become a super entrepreneur, and that is what is required. Then the possibility of getting trapped into adjustment whirlpool, which is something which happens with a lot of these non-profit organizations, that you keep on adjusting with the donor requirement, with the government regulation, with the requirement from the community. So how long you and to what extent you need to adjust, so that you don't miss out this part of yours. You don't deviate from where you started, and it doesn't lead you to the toxic shocks that people who were against the corporates, now they are working on the corporate responsibility projects. Choices, something which is very difficult, which is sometimes very difficult to make in a complex situation, where whether to work with the government or against the government, whether to work with the corporates or not, whether to work on all the needs of the community, or how long and to what extent do you negotiate with the actors who are coming with the different motivation and the compulsions. And then the mission measurement paradox, which comes with the, you also need to measure your work. So the values which you create, how do you measure that? And it says that we manage what we measure. So it is very important that you, measure your value system. You create that monitoring, framework for you, and you see that where you have progressed and where you are going, and which will lead to the, the direction in which you want to lead your organization into. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you. I hope I was not too long.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now, house is open for any queries or questions. You can unmute your mic and ask, or either drop a message in a chat box. So I think so there are no questions. So thank you so much, ma'am. Your presentation was really wonderful. We learned a lot from it. Now let's move further. No duty is more urgent than that of returning thanks. Moving towards the end of this event, I would like to call upon Dr. Namrata Williams, HOD Finance, Zadas, to pay vote of thanks of the day.
Thank you, Priyanshi. I won't be taking much of your time because I know we've already overshot it. I'll be very quick as fast as I can. Good afternoon and good morning, everybody, to all the dignitaries across the globe. Thank you for being a part of this webinar. I would especially like to thank the dignitaries and delegates of both the universities of Spain and UK for taking out the time for us, and all the management staff and team of Vidas Jabalpur. It's been a very informative and engaging session by Professor Amparo Merino, Grace and Abby. And also I'd like to thank Ms. Zakia Zabeen, Ms. Caroline Whitfield for the invaluable insights. You'll just have to bear with me for a few more minutes. I'd also like to extend a very warm thank you to our alumni, Priyanka Daley, for the insightful session. Thank you for all the deliberations. In addition, I'd like to thank the alumni and students present. I really request if you could all switch on your cameras, we could at least have a look of who all are there right now. Please, if you could switch on the cameras. I would like to extend a thanks to Dr. Namrata Vasudev Jasrotia for putting this webinar together, along with our director, Dr. Father Dharam Kishore Lakra. Father has been a constant support in all this, and he's been helping us out. I'd also like to thank our dean. In addition to this, there is a very important team who've been a part of this webinar is our technical team, Professor Anchal Mishra. Can we have a look at you, Professor Anchal Mishra? Can you please switch on your camera? I can't see you, sorry. I hope everybody else can see, because he's been one person who's been running around constantly getting the whole thing together. And Mr. Radhe Mohan Upadhyay and Mr. Stephen Phillip. Please switch on your cameras if you're there. The most of the technical work, the whole thing has been relentlessly done by them. Because this webinar being a technical part would not have been possible without them. In the end, I'd like to thank Ankit and Priyanshi for being wonderful masters of ceremony, and a very happy Women's Day to everybody present. And thank you for being a part of this and keeping the UN message of gender equality for a sustainable tomorrow. I hope we'll take this forward and have many more sessions like this in future. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There is a request for all. Can you please turn on your camera so that we can have a group photograph?
Yes, Anshal, is it done?
Father, I still cannot see Anchal anywhere.
Is there?
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, thank you. Once again,
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Priyanka. That was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks to all the alumni present. Priyank sir, I can acknowledge few of them. Om Prakash sir, sir, happy birthday today, sir.
Thank you very much.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Welcome, Om Prakash. Nice to see you after ages.
Thank you. Nice to see you, ma'am.
Bye-bye.
Yes, same. Nice to see you. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Very great. Very nice. Thank you, Amparo. That was wonderful. Thank you for your contribution, Amparo.
You the same. We'll keep in touch. Just to see
Yeah,
how
we'll
it's
keep
gonna
in
be.
touch. Yes, we'll keep in touch. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you. Thank you, Ankit and Priyanshi. Thank you, Anshul.